Up next on the docket, let's talk a big transfer that's coming into Florida State right here with Fentrell Cypress of Virginia, cornerback. Wow, this was a big day. I believe these were the same day, Fabian Lovett and Fentrell Cypress, if I'm correct.
Within,
Yeah.
I think it was less than 3 hours in between. Like it was.
Yeah. I think FSU fans were just at a state of shock at some point, and they were like, "Oh, where's Jared Verse coming? Let's just end it off right now. Let's seal it and deal it. Let's go and get the college football playoff tickets reserved." But yeah, Fentrell Cypress, one of the top transfers in the transfer portal, definitely in the defensive back position, but overall as a player, a top 3 player in the portal. He ends up picking Florida State and Adam Fuller's defense. Can no longer say Marcus Woodson secondary. We'll talk about that in just a few. But what a pickup here, which Florida State, one of the things that we've talked about throughout the whole season was the lack and the weakness at the cornerback position. Looking now, Renardo Green, you've seen the rise of Azariah Thomas. You saw, too, the improvement from Jerrion Jones. Amarion Cooper start off the season, not how we had expected it to go, but then kind of seeing him get healthier and healthier, play a bit better. But, one of the biggest things was in coverage with Cooper. Grady Vance, your leading interception leader for Florida State in 2022. You bring in Fentrell Cypress. I think iron sharpens iron. This is going to create a lot of good competition, but definitely expecting Fentrell to fight and get one of those starting spots. And I see a lot of comments. I see all throughout since he announced that he was coming, what about Azariah Thomas and stuff? Azariah Thomas has already gotten a lot of playing time. He's going to continue to get a ton of playing time, but I think too, we kind of overlook the season that Renardo Green had. It's just going to create a lot of good competition that is much needed in that secondary, primarily at the cornerback position.
Yeah, and Cypress, one of the top transfers in the portal, Florida State able to win out for his services over programs like Ohio State, LSU, and I mean a plethora of others. Florida State able to get him on campus for an official visit at the end of December, and they've really caught his eye ever since. A very long and lengthy, athletic defensive back, I believe about 6 foot, 185 pounds, and just a guy who is going to be locked down in coverage at Florida State. 57 tackles, half a tackle for loss, half a sack, 15 pass deflections, and an interception during his time at Virginia. And with Cypress hopping on board, that gives Florida State the #1 transfer portal class in the country right now, according to 247 Sports. Mike Norvell actually commented on the addition after it became official. He said, Fentrell is a great player who possesses the unique combination of length and athleticism. He has a huge upside and brings a proven track record of consistent playmaking into our defensive backfield. So obviously a huge pickup for Florida State. We've already got a lot of news that some veterans are going to be coming back in that cornerback room. So now you add Fentrell Cypress in alongside guys like Renardo Green, Jerrion Jones, Greedy Vance, Kevin Knowles, Marion Cooper, Zari Thomas. And then you've got some freshmen coming in, Edwin Joseph, Jabril Rawls, Quindarius Jones. So once again, another position group that has a ton of experience, some young talent as well to boot. And it's going to be interesting to see whoever the next defensive backs coach comes in to replace Coach Woodson, how they work with that room moving forward. And that's not even mentioning maybe a guy like Travis Jay, who we saw dress out for the first time in the 2022 season against Oklahoma in that bowl game. So we'll see if he fits in maybe at cornerback or at safety. But right now it appears that he's looking to stick around with the Seminoles possibly.
Cypress was one of the 10 best corners in the country last year, according to Pro Football Focus. Putting a guy like that on this defense is exactly what they need. A guy that can absolutely lock down one side of the field, which we saw it a little bit with Renardo Green against Keishawn Boutte in the LSU game, and he really shut Boutte down. But I feel like for the most part, he was a little up and down more than we'd like to prefer. Now you're bringing a guy like Cypress who's just as dominant as a corner as there is in the country. It's something this defense desperately needed.
Yeah, Azariah Thomas is going to get a lot of PT, and he's going to fight. He's going to compete for a starting job. Made some plays there at the end of the season, definitely against Oklahoma. But Cypress is just a well-experienced player that had a lot of opportunities to go to other schools. I think Florida State jumped in quickly, and they're also offering a starting job. And that's hard to give up to a place that is called DBU. And for him to come onto the scene where Florida State has a chance to make, what's funny now, Florida State can now advertise, hey, make a college football playoff run. We have a chance of winning an ACC championship. You can now advertise that alone should bring some more ears, and the ears listen a little bit more to what you're saying as a coaching staff. And I'm just now realizing I think that's something that probably Cypress was attracted to, because there were some other schools, Ohio State too, kind of was trying to get involved also. Ends up picking Florida State. We'll see though who they end up picking. We'll transition this in just a second to the Marcus Woodson news, but Florida State, just looking at the secondary, D-Lou, can't wait to be out there to watch the competition that will be in that secondary alone. It should be pretty filled with some entertainment, because it was kind of already that way ahead of this last spring. But right now, you've seen some guys grow, like Azrae Thomas, Jerrion Jones,
even Greedy
Green. Yeah, and Greedy was a shock to us, because in the spring we were seeing him get beat on routes, wasn't great in coverage, yada, 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 and then progresses to becoming Florida State's leader in interceptions, and seemed to be at the right place at the right time throughout the 2022 season. So this room is filled, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be fun to watch these guys. And then I keep on forgetting, but, Kevin Knowles, is also in that room. And, I'm interested to see what they do with Knowles, just watching in practice. They've tried him out in a few different spots. I'm interested to see if there's anything outside of the nickel position, if they want to look at safety potentially. You're bringing Akeem Dent back. Now you have Shyheim Brown. I think Kevin Knowles is a Swiss Army knife in the secondary, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. Like I said, a lot of experience coming back in that cornerback room. And I mean, I guess you can pretty much say the same thing about a lot of these position groups on the roster right now. Maybe last year, some of them coming in a little bit more unproven. And maybe, just thinking about it right now, maybe right now the tight ends are the most unproven on the roster, with two guys coming in Jaheim Bell and Kyle Morlock, who you expect to significantly contribute out of the gate. But outside of that, every other room for Florida State that I can think of, bringing back multiple starters from a season ago. So a lot of experience coming back, some really talented transfers coming in to fill the gaps, some freshmen at the bottom of the roster who Florida State can build up over the next couple of years. I think you've got to be excited with the state of this roster. It's starting to become a little bit more normal after the COVID years.
Yeah, there's really only two question marks left on this roster, and that's, what does Jared Verse do? And then how do they replace Jamie Robinson, which we haven't talked about it yet, but him declaring to the NFL draft leaves a huge void at that safety position.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you get Akeem Dent coming back. You got Shyheim Brown there. But I still like one experienced guy back there that can really fill that void as just a heat-seeking missile. Because we saw it in the Oklahoma game. Jamie Robinson was everywhere in that game. And having a guy that can just clean up on the back end of the plays is huge, and especially in this defense from last year that could possibly give up some plays, let some running backs and receivers get on the edge at times. Having a guy like Robinson that can clean that up was huge. And there's not that player on the roster right now. We'll see how they attack it in the transfer portal. But I think that's the biggest question mark right now.
It's a good point because, yeah, like you said, right now, Akeem Dent coming back, Shyheim Brown coming back, you would think maybe those two guys are probably going to be the starters opposite of each other. And then outside of that, we'll see what happens with Travis Jay, whether he flexes back out to safety where he began his college career. You've got 4-star Comrade Hussey coming in over the summer. KJ Kirkland, a 3-star signee coming in, who I like a lot. I think he will eventually fit in as a safety at Florida State. But, yeah, there's not a ton of depth there at safety, and it would benefit Florida State to pull in one guy from the transfer portal. They were going pretty heavily after the Syracuse safety transfer, Jihad Carter, trying to get him in for an official visit, but it didn't work out. He ended up committing to Ohio State earlier this week. So we'll just see how it goes from here. Hasn't been a ton of options available in the market so far, unfortunately.
Hey guys, this is Logan. Definitely appreciate you for watching the entire video. If you wouldn't mind, definitely hit that like button down below. Leave a comment on what you thought about the video, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you guys haven't yet either, make sure you're signed up on our Patreon. This is where we're giving our inside news, inside nuggets, recruiting scoop, and so much more daily. You guys can sign up for that at patreon.com/NoleGameday. It's the cheapest option out of any outlet covering Florida State athletics right now at $2.99 a month. I highly suggest going to check it out. Once again, patreon.com/NoleGameday. Come hang out with us. See you guys there, and thank you for watching.